afternoon. I'm Vinicius. I work for Bench. Born and raised in Belo Horizonte, so it's very nice to be back home. I spent 30 years of my life in Belo Horizonte, and now I'm elsewhere. And following this presentation, which takes more or less half an hour, we will have a Q&A session. And it would be very nice if you all sat closer, because those who will hand out the microphones for the questions will have to move shorter distances, and it will be better in order to hand out the freebies that you will get. So you don't have to be all piled up, but those of you who are sitting on the sides and those in the back, please come forward. I am part of the backbench people. So, but thank you all for all this movement. This is a very big hall, and you see, if you're very scattered, you may fall asleep. But the idea is continuous delivery for mobiles at the bank and at the Nubank. And I'll show you all the processes and practices, tools and stuff that we have in order to try and do this in a proper fashion. I'm Vinicius Andrade here. I spent 2 years at the Nubank and 6 years at Tortrix, and before that 2 years in Belo Horizonte, the last company in Belo Horizonte I worked for. And first off, a bit of context. What do we mean by mobile? I'm going to talk about the webs, Android, Apple. Who works with apps and selling applications? Relatively few people. This is very curious. Those of you who run, who is a project manager here, or PM, or Scrum Masters, or any one of these monikers you want to call yourselves, Agile Code. And in our context, we have one app in each store, each platform, but we have only one code repository, which is the monorepo. Who doesn't know monorepo? It is a practice that it's being increasingly practiced. All our code in a single repository to curb the problem of dependence and to manage versions of dependence. All of you who work with dependence have to deal with this, so we adopted monorepo for this purpose. Why is that? Because we can get to the store faster. This is only the context of where we are, our Android application or iOS, which besides Android has the Clutter and the React code. And in the other, we have in Objective-C, and in Switch we have the React Native and the flagging code. So at least 4 programming languages. This is what we have to chip in at the end of the day. We have over 140 people working in this repository, and we have 50 releases per week, approximately. What are weekly release? One binary is taken to internal distribution to the new bankers, to the store every 2 weeks, and I'll tell you how this process works. Switched off? Okay, let's turn caffeine on. Sorry about that. Well, a bit of context there. Now it won't change. There it is. This is how our code base is divided. A lot of switches. We adopted a switch in Kotlin way before release 1.0. We are trying to drive new technologies. We have Flutter codes already in the air. Who uses this this new account has ran it, and technology to the consumer, to our customer makes less difference. Does any of you know which part of the app is done in React, in native, or Flutter? No, I don't think you can. And this is our objective. That is TypeScript, but this is what we do. All our React Native is done via context script. And a lot of this lecture, this is the most basic of the basic. These two books, Continuous Delivery, it's 10 years old already, and the other one is Accelerate, which was released last year. In this book, Accelerate, companies, they make a survey with this company. Who has heard of this book? Excellent, good number. You read it, no? Not only heard about it, but also read it. Only hearing about it is not enough. High performance companies are capable of deploying and then distribution quite efficiently. And they then go to distribution in a continuous manner. So when you're working in the back engine, you have to ship your microservice, a slice of your company's service, and I expect that you're the owner of the value chain from beginning to end, the features that your company works with. When you are at the back end, doing this independently, microservices, I don't mean to say it is easier or even easy, but we need only one binary. So we have 100 developers all over the country, and we have to ensure the quality of the code written by all these people. This is the difficulty of the story. This is what we want. I will have a lot of technical terms in my presentation, and feel free to ask for clarifications. We had one release per week, and when we ended the monorepo, the objective of the purpose of the monorepo is greater speed for more releases. Miguel here, MOS calls monorep. That is the last module that we wanted in the repository. And we see that it really mushroomed. Today we have in excess of 50 per day, 10 black versions for me and for the other teams. This is a bit of the story. Very basic, we have that. Nubank is one of the greatest customers of Amazon in Brazil. All our AWS, nobody has, there's not a single machine. Who runs the iOS version? Do you have a Mac Mini in your companies or what? You have a Mac Mini, how do you build? In the Mac. And so you build and then drag it on to the store. We have to improve on that. And you, good. I didn't hear. Yeah, Microsoft iOS build. Yes, anybody else building on iOS? Anybody has the Mac Mini? Very common, very common. We have this scenario, and we took it to Mac Stadium. MacStage now launched a new tool called Containers Orchestration. With the Mac Station, we can run it all on Mac Station and everything on Kubernetes that runs on Amazon. This is how it works. And we use Jenkins. This is the difficulty. The iOS build has to be done in an iOS machine, and it's quite difficult to buy a 15,000 real machine for your developers. What is most important? Most important of all are engineering practices. This is the differential. and when a lot of MOB, a lot of MOB, who was here at the keynote speaker? And we do a lot of MOB, of mob programming. This is a technique that has helped us a lot. A lot of automated testing, and our Android has in excess of 15,000 automated tests at all levels, integration and unit. Most of them are units. Who among you depend on a manual keyway for the release of their applications? 2019 people, right? I don't have to give you this message. 2019, it's a high time to automate all this. If you're dependent on a keyway, on a manual keyway to go there and approve your application, you're wasting time. That can be automated. And then we say that there is no keyway function. It really is non-existent. But can we outsource that? Yes. Yes, we can. We can outsource it. Everybody comes in as they should. This is an engineering practices. A number of function is bad. Being specialized isn't exactly bad, but for the team's daily life, it collaborates less towards specialization. So there's no such function. But there's people, 15,000 tests is a lot of tests. We have a PR template, so whenever the PR will send a new code, they have to fill out a form. I'll show you the form, and they're all reviewed. What do we do more that is different in that flow? Submit PR, and it's the peer request. I don't know what is the terminology that you use in your theme. We use PR. So it's a bit of work. It's a piece of work. It doesn't have to be completed, really. It's a piece of work that will be in this small repository. And the trick is this, a robot that does it a little bit differently from giving a commit or a merge in the main repository. It is a bot that does it, not an individual developer. So these are the engineering practices. Is there any mystery here, folks? And did I mention anything that nobody had ever heard of? I don't think so. I think everybody has heard. Please leave your question to the end, please. All questions to the end, if you don't mind. This thing is locked. It just switched 20 slides at a flick. So this is PR. I can't zoom in. Can you read? It's too small, isn't it? Well, that is the first question. Who's accessing with this PR? A feature, a back fix? What is that? Changes that? There is a feature flag. Does it have a feature flag? This is the most important question in this forum. What is the flag? If there's no feature flag, if your feature doesn't bring a flag, and the other cool issue is whether this PR, if something wrong happens with this code, what do we have to do? That is the standard response is this, to disable that. This is why the question is important. Who doesn't know of this concept? Feature flags is a review that you add into the code that you will ask this. Does this customer have access to this feature or not? It's a bit more complex. There's a whole service behind it, but this is just to make sure whether to validate it. Does the customer have access to this feature or not? Let's crank it up. So you crank it up and the feature is turned on. Is there any problem? Then it will tell you this code has a problem. What do I do? Because the team has to react quickly. If it depends on alarms and warnings, red flags, everybody can see and disable the feature flag. This is why there's these two questions which are exceedingly important. So I crank it up, the PR up, it is going to be validated. And it goes through a standard pipe of who has seen a repo pipeline. Everybody has. This is nothing out of the world. So you validate the cache and 20 flags and a number of traits. I'll show you 5 different pipelines. There it is, validate, there's the difference. See, I did nothing in the parallel stage. There's only one test. This is the same pipeline. Look at the test. So the previous pipeline, you just fiddle with the bit of the code, and it is a little bit ahead of the new code. This one, 3 modules, 4 modules, 3 modules depended on that change. So the module that I changed has 3. No, there's 4 other packages depending on it. So I have to test these 4 packages with a new version. And the pipeline is adapted, and it will only give you what is necessary and essential. Very important for cost reduction. So there's a 15,000 tests elsewhere in the environment that you're running is plenty expensive, so you have to decrease the cost. Who does automated tests here? Who has the test flight in the automated testing? Who could, when I asked the test break, below the hands, I want to work with you all. At mobile, there's a lot of test flight. It's part of life. So doing a lot of testing and is pretty important. And I'll tell you how we handle test flights in the next slide. There it is. More things that were changed. Same thing, the dependency tree depends on what is entered. This is the part of React. This is iOS, this is Android. And we have to check on the modules and individual technologies, join them all together and make a release. So we are just in the prior moments. This is the flank. Each technology has its own part. And now here's the cat's meow. When your work is completed and you're happy to join the master, and you go to the PR, and you key in the little robot access. There's the Boris. Boris made a reference by request, merged it. There's 1522 is the PR number. The bot itself will follow up on those pipes that I showed you, and at the end of the pipeline, he will emerge with that code in order to remove this from the hand of the developer. Imagine 50 developers. They all want to send code to their repository. How will you guarantee their masters? That is the trick. And this our understanding of continuous delivery is that. I know there's people who like to work on the master, and the master sometimes shuts down, but we want to have it all green all the time. So we have a queue to submit PRs, and the bots really manages this queue. And the board will say, well, I'm going to merge this work, which is very nice. And so, it will run the process. If everything is okay, the PR will yield a report and tell you everything that went in and what didn't go in, and everything that you need to unravel your problems. And they merged. It merged and simply erased the branch. It automates that part of the development. And along this venue, this robot, 4 people, each one of them sent a PR, each one of them in the queue. So we're taking these 4 changes and try to run them in the pipeline with the testing of these 4 changes all together. We'll try to run them all together, and this slide is read upside down. I mean, from the bottom up. And their boards will do the bisect automated. This is its trump. It's an open source tool. It is not going to be in the branch. it bisects and will try to run 13, 28, 15, 46 will try to run. And when it passed, it was merged into the master. The merging in the master will fire off the release pipeline, and that success line will create a release in the application store. I'll show you how. So out of the 4 originals, 2 were left. One of them failed, and then it will be bisected. And another one will try to run the other one. It passed, so we found the one that has a problem, that has a bug. We end our work at 6:30 and went home. Look at the time of the last release, 9 p.m. So Boris continued to work, merging all the PSs that we were working on during the day. For which reason we have 10 releases a day. There are 2 releases there, one at 7:15, another one at 9 p.m. Each succeed is one release, one version, one release, one version with code and all. It's what we need for development. So Boris does this magic. This happens sometimes. 9 PRs passing. Our record is 11. 11 people working. They sent in their work. One didn't have to wait for the others for commitment, and then merge and sent to the robot. The robot did it all. At the Nubank, we work with autonomous standalone teams. The teams have everything they need to carry out all the work they deem necessary. And this is very good because I don't have to wait for my colleagues' work, and we end up with that rebase problem. Who has to go to rebase on the master today? Sometimes it fries you up, doesn't it? At the Nubank, people started coming in at 7 a.m. to air their codes and stayed in until 8 p.m. because there was no competition for the rebase. That is a problem. Overwork is a problem. So we went to the Boris solution, and every one of the 50, we have approximately 60 constant contributors to the mobile, and all of them use Boris, and they can merge with the master through the robot, which entailed a significant gain. The queue time is wasted time, of course. And we're very well served. The teams today have dominance of back end and front end, so everything guarantees the contracts, but all the dirty work is done by the robot. And these are all the parts. And so PR check, as I said in the beginning, the dispatch is the dispatch pipeline. It will check what were the technologies changed by the PR and segregates from those technologies. If there was a change in the Android case, I don't have to rehabilitate it. I don't have to rehabilitate Flutter. I don't have to rebuild any Android modules, only those that depend on what I have changed. And another release pipeline. But validating pipeline will check whether the PR is all right. And we're going to look at each one in detail. So the dispatch pipeline, you see that the React was not fired off. It means that there was a change in the Flutter and it required firing off the Android and the iOS. For that, if you had the React Native, only the bottom ball would be colored. Our pipeline, I won't say intelligent, because that is a basic little filter, but it will help increase speed. Though the Android, when you do a change in a build archive, this is a very cool image. It seems to be a lot of modules. The Nubank today has 40 Android modules. It looks like a lot, but Uber has more than 1,000. What we mean that each module will be very small in order that our pipeline be more effective every time. with smaller modules and fewer dependencies between and among them. So it ran once with 10 modules, and the little yellow ones are modules that failed the test flake in the mobile. So out of 15,000 tests, we have 3 modules failing. 2 tests failed in each one. It is not worthwhile to run all the tests again because of 6 that failed. What do you mean it's not worth? The master will be broken down? No. Those are the flakes in the testing. This is the second run. This is just a new attempt of the tests that fail only. We have a control of the flakes, and we really follow up on them well. There's a little red one. We had another one, another test flake. We ran it again, and it passed. In order not to have to run all the tests again, this is our strategy of reattempting in order to try and decrease our cost and have a greater efficiency. Imagine each one is 40 minutes. Imagine a little flake that failed, another 40 minutes to run the entire pipeline. So the reattempt is to try and solve the problem that we found. iOS involves the same. All technologies are about the same. Strategies, interactive, and so forth. This is our release. This is a bit more complex. But, folks, no mystery at all. You have to download the cache and so forth. We have a bit flag archive. We do the building. We do the build of Flutter and iOS in order to embed in the native applications. We have to build the native applications, and then we use Fastlane for the stores. And Android and Apple have a new release that we can improve upon it in this step. A new release and so forth. Too small, but the first release is 1 o'clock p.m. and the other one is at 10 p.m. 8 releases in a single day happening. And what does this mean? It means that the release was successful, rolled for 8 times. This is the type of automation and communication that we do a lot of, and at the team that I'm leading, one of the teams. Well, and where does this go? How does this reach the customers? The promise of reaching the customers. First, this is the internal alpha, goes to the developmental teams. Every build goes to the development teams. My cell phone doesn't stop beeping. 10 releases every day. Do we have to test them all? No, but I like to follow up, and I want to be on the ball with all the releases. So all product units receive this internal release every merge with the master. And we cannot ensure that out of the 10 versions, 10 releases, they're all healthy. They were built and they passed the test, which doesn't mean properly that they're perfect, doesn't mean that they don't have a bug. But out of these versions, of these releases, we promote one and promote it to alpha for the new bankers. But all the 2,000 new bankers will get this release. And on a daily basis, every new bankers get a new release. And we have another practice there by which we have a welcome week. People step in and stay for a week in doing training, during which we talk to the new bankers to adopt the alpha program. New people. This is a practice. Everybody has to access alpha, and we're automating that too. So once a week, we choose one of these versions, one of these releases, and promote it to the customer. When we promote it to the new banker, if we leave there for 2 or 3 days with the new bankers, if it passed successfully, we feel comfortable in taking it to the store. And every week, every week, and we take some of the latest release and look at it, and well, perhaps the prior one was good. We promote it to beta, not necessarily the latest version, but the best version, the best release. We promote it to beta, and you can choose whether you want the beta or not. iOS also allows that. There's a link for the choosing the option, and then we get in contact with the customer and do the release.
This is a very manual process, or work-loaded process. Those are like Apple. 2 days to approve one version. It takes 2 days. And, this really hurts. It hurts deep waiting for 2 days. And the version is up in the air and running. Everything is working. Great. Perfect. Perfect. Right? We have the generated hotfix for iOS here. There are lots of people waiting, right? Those who have had to do that. It's horrible, isn't it? It's a horrible feeling. No, let's wait for the new version to come up and solve the customers' problems. They have Apple Expedite, etc., but no. But this is a process that for us is still very labor intensive, right? We have to take it to the store, upload it there, automatically. But to transform that version into a version to customers, this is still a manual process. Um, those who have been following us at the bank, the version has improved a little bit because we created this team to do this work. Is anyone Deb here that has to write easy notes? I have had to do that. I wrote there bug fixes. Our creativity as developers is really excellent, right? So we have an entire marketing team there, and they are the ones who writes our notes, and we take care of it regularly. That is. This is another very important point. The deploy, to take the app to the store, does not mean give more functions to the customers, right? Right? To deploy does not mean a functionality release, right? We launched now in the counter PJ, for instance. The new counter PJ's code has been in the cell phone for 1 year since we started working with the corporate account. The code is there, but the flag was off. So this is the file where we control these flags. You can read it from back there, right? There is there a list of rules. What is the percentage of customers that will receive this functionality? This is one file per function. Okay, how do you want to filter it? And we see in this version it is there. Well, I need the customers in Android and iOS to be at least in this version. Why is that? Why? Why do we have to have this version? Because when we do this in our web service there, when we control the front end and back end, you don't need to add the version. Usually you don't, right? But why? Why this difference then? What's there? What's that? The user may decide not to update. Perfect. Yes. Yes, this is a chaos. This is chaotic. I have a customer with the version of 2 years ago. Do I have to make the customer do it? No, there's nothing I can do through the store that will mandate that that user to update. Not through the store. I cannot do that, and we cannot do this at Nubank. We do not do this type of check. So this version here requires Android 503008 and iOS 7010. Well, this is also very important. Imagine the example I gave you with the the corporate account app, the Conta PJ, which is in your cell. If we only had the flag without the version, the customer, what the customer may have as incomplete from 1 year ago, would also have access to the feature, but would would go bankrupt. So it would break. So an older version, we have to have that control there to do this follow-up. And another type of control we run is a list where you add all the ads from customers, and then we have a fine-tuning control. I can say that customer receives, this customer here does not receive. By code, we can do this there. It gives us a huge flexibility, huge flexibility. And while the new Conta PJ does this, we had 10 customer IDs there, and only those customers would receive, and everyone else would be sure that only those customers would have that function. And a lot of savings in there. Anyone uses iOS here? This is the link. Uh, sou.nu Android/beta or dash beta. You will receive the update of our beta more than every 2 weeks. That is, and well, this is it. This is how we have been doing it. We left the store. We came to the customers. The goal was to end. How long did it take me? Well, 35 minutes. I have here 25 minutes to chat and answer questions. I really like understanding the context before answering a question. So give me some context so that we can help us with this about your company, and let's see what we can do. Let's not compare corporations. She had a question before. Can you just send her the microphone? Camila. Camila will take the mics to you and walk a little, do some exercise, right? And well, let's start with the questions there then. Hello, good afternoon. I am Karina, and I'd like to know, how did you come to the stage where you don't have QI, everything is automated? And putting things in context, because I was in a team where we started to do this, and there were many questions like, do you trust the code you are doing for the test? So this was very, we were very discomforted by that, and we're trying to improve this. This is a test pyramid to stimulate to put it in lower layers and reduce QA, but we had people who were technical references, and even then they didn't trust their own code to test it. So this is why I'm asking. But you do pairing there, any type of pairing? Do you do it there when you're writing the code, for instance? Do you do pairing? It is always alone? Not always alone. We don't use pair programming. Well, this is one step, I would say, because, for instance, we inherited the code, for instance, that came, a legacy code, that were some tests, and we would think, how can anyone write a test like this? It will pass, it will not break, but how can you guarantee that what the person did today will continue to do it correctly and will truly test the functionality? Nothing happened along the way that will not show you the problem. Well, that is a hard question, I would say, but I think the way with which Nubank organizes itself can help out the Nubank. If your code exploded, it will not be the maintenance team that will take care of that code. You are the one who will have to do this. There you have, do you have a maintenance team there? No. It's just that we have the QA okay at the end, but even then a bug comes back. Returns. Well, sometimes one or another thing shows up. Well, then the person is playing to lose, right? I don't know, because it is an issue of incentive. So how do you follow these people, these test codes? How do you have a ramp up of a new person? Well, this happens inside each team. Each team has a way to deal with this. We don't have a mobile centralized team. We don't have that anymore. We have this in product films. So I'm not sure if this happens to you, but And I can't actually answer this because, we would be speaking the whole afternoon about that. But Nubank has been around for 6 years only, and since the very beginning, we are very much focused on automated tests and very big in the app quality. When we find a crash, when there's a crash, everyone stops to solve that crash and to solve that issue. So I think it is much more an issue of incentive and team organization than a technical team or technical issue that is. This was not the best answer, but good afternoon. I wanted to use this opportunity. So you were starting to enter operations in Mexico, etc. I work in a company. We are already in Mexico, and I wanted to understand how are you doing, or how do you intend to do this base code? If this will be a separate code for Nash, if everything is together, the test pipeline, even because of differences, legal differences of money. So you are a customer. If you unlog, you can log in Mexico there. So it's only one app, only one app. Well, the thing is modules, and modules. So we have there a Mexico payment module, and that module is in charge of that. If you change there, the modes dependent of that, we'll have to go through tests from that model or module, that is, and that's how we're doing today. This may change, yes, but for now, this is how it is working there, both in Mexico and in Argentina. Okay? Hello, my name is Denise, and I would like to talk a little about this relationship of the mobile team with the UX team. The company where I work, sometimes I feel this huge difficulty of managing their relationship. How does it work inside Nubank? Well, this is very different because we don't have a US team. We have a product team, and this product team has a UX and the DEX. So it already starts differently there. There is a UX chapter, a DEX chapter. They have local discussions, etc. Of course, this does happen. However, the work inside the workflow inside the product team is everyone working together. So everyone together. So we don't have this barrier that you have to cross. I imagine from what you're saying that there is a WEX team or requirements team that understand the problems, does the logs. No, no, no. Actually, they are inside the squads. But what happens is that at some point we had to share a UX, and then the mobile the PO the owner of the product asked Davio to design that, and he said, "This is not my problem; it's a UX problem." So I believe that as a team we have to work together. Does it happen at Nubank? No, for example, when the person there says, well, I don't think this can be done, and the person will receive a feedback about this, and we hope that this behavior will change, because this is not a constructive behavior. No, well, I can't answer even further than that. Yes, because you don't have that at Nubank. It is not something that you have there. Well, we hope not, and we make as much as possible not to let this happen, but it may happen. We chose for that to bring down barriers and having more developers able to work all the way to our customer, end to end. Any more question? Our time is almost up, but Vini, good afternoon there. Name is Carlos, and I fully agree with you. I felt that since 2019, but this is more out of a curiosity. The QA function where I work, we have that, and it is always, but especially when we talk about the release approval. Did you already start with this culture of not having that, or did you have it and you had to? You never had it. You started without it. Yes, yes. This is something that we do there. My CTO still writes code there. So this engineering background is very strong there, very strong. And we have this mentality of waste a little, but it is much more efficacious than efficient. So this QA role it is a waste because it is way down there at the end of the process, and the traditional way it is at the end of the process because and it validates. It seems that it is a waste. It is something that could have been automated, and that's why we automated. What helps is that what happens behind the Nubank. Of course, we have it at Nubank, but that is very much different. We say there's no term, but of course there are terms that have to be met. But we use much less pressure for delivery terms and due dates and the use of dates and count team points, etc. We don't do that because we focus on efficacy, and we believe the team is producing with quality and is automating all the necessary tests for that function to work smoothly, to run smoothly. Well, now I think it is the last question. Well, Camila has the mic, so she will tell you when the time is up. Good afternoon. I wanted to understand better how you have this relationship between the teams, because the dads are distributed between the product teams, and when you have to make a decision that is a bit higher than the product. What is a decision higher than the product? For example, to decide upon a different technology. For example, let's change Flutter for another technology. How does it work? How does it work? The autonomy of product teams. That is. Yes. Well, we chose Flutter. Well, first we did a Flutter concept test. We have been working with Flutter for over a year now, and while in the middle of last year, we started a concept test to spread knowledge through the mob. So we met 3 times a week, thrice a week. We replicated a function existing in the app, put it in the air, and ran an open test. This is our concept test to check whether or not the technology would fit. We did this, and then I left on a break in February, and this exercise ended, and the team got together again for 3 months to study the React, Kotlin, and Flutter. And we compared, and we have 11 criteria. We are about to publish this material. We established more than 11 criteria. One of them was the developer's experience. So we ran tests with the developers who knew mobile, those who didn't, and those who knew Flutter, and more than one of each. But this function that we tested, the concept, we gave it to the person. He ran a usability test there and said, well, you should change this on this code. And then we see how difficult it is to have that happen. This is one of the tests we ran to check the productivity of the team as well. So we ran this study for 3 months, and we then concluded that among the priorities, the Flutter was the one that served us the better. When the report was released, you can see there that yet and caught and many other aspects. But for what really mattered for us, we chose Flutter, and from now on, new functionalities we wish they would be written in Flutter. Of course, we can't establish this rule before and after, because sometimes I need to run a small test, and it's better to use the native technology. We don't have to do everything again in Flutter. But our goal is that every new functionality would come out in Flutter. So the next ones will come in Flutter. So this team would work as if it were a cross between those 3 months, yes. And then the task force was created, then it was dismissed, and now they created an architecture team. I'm the tech manager for this team as well, and this team creates the basic abstractions for the product teams to work, and they work also in the productivity of all the other developers. So this architecture team is taking care of this, but the decision to choose Flutter was the team that ran the study, presented it to the company and said, well, it makes sense to use Flutter, and then we're moving towards Flutter. Did I answer your question? People, well, my time's up. Thank you very much. I'm here at Nubank booth. I'm here until Sunday morning. I'll have some beer with acarajé at the carnival we have down here at the avenue. So thank you very much for coming.